In Commerce, where we bring you insights about content in commerce. Today I have Isaac. He is my co host. Well, I have him every day. Isaac, go ahead. I don't know if we have to introduce ourselves every time, but
Hey
let's
everybody.
do
Well,
it one
since
last
this
time.
is our second, yeah, since it's only our second episode, we can go back and do one last round of introductions. And I found this cool little title thing in Riverside, so I think it should be showing up across the different platforms. That I'm Isaac, and I'm the chief editor of Content Cucumber. And basically, what that means is I help companies tell their stories online with writing, blogs, emails, and other kinds of content. And I've been doing that for quite a while. I work as a writer occasionally, but nowadays I'm more leading a team of writers and helping coordinate with clients and doing all sorts of editorial duties. And yeah, since a lot of our clients are in the e-commerce space, that's going to tie into our focus today, and we'll be talking about some different important concepts that anyone who's creating content for commerce should be taking into account. Brent,
Yeah,
go ahead and give us one last introduction for
that's
yourself.
awesome. I probably won't take that much time to tell people what I do, um, but I do the techie side and some of the leadership side at Content Cucumber, and now Content Basis. We're one. So, anyways, we won't belabor everybody with hearing me chat. But I think today we want to talk about two subjects: humans in the loop, which I think is a great little segue title that we're gonna move into, and then we want to talk about the importance. Well, that part of that would be talking about the importance of people in there. And what was the other topic, Isaac?
And the other topic is going to be a, uh, a revival from last week, and we're going to come back to the content supply chain. So we have humans in the loop and content supply chain.
Perfect. All right, so let's start with humans in the loop. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the host mentioned this topic or this concept because I'm really pushing this idea that if you just uh, let AI do its automation and don't keep a human in the loop, that it is going to run wild and just give you a bunch of stuff. And he had a great analogy as well as you want to paint your living room six different colors, you don't mix them all up. Like you just get mud if you mix them all up. You want to make sure that those colors are separate. And as much as we can do to make unique content with only AI, humans in the loop ensures that we have great content always.
Okay, so a couple thoughts there, Brent. One is that I think any way you slice it, six colors in your living room is going to be a pretty bombastic living room. And well, then again, look at my shelf. Who am I to talk? But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. Where controlling the output and having human oversight is good. But let's back up just a little bit. Tell us, like, explain to a fifth grader or to someone who's never heard the term content and sorry, humans in the loop. What exactly is humans in the loop?
Yeah, that's great. And so, first thing I would say is that the differentiation between automation and AI and people having a person there, a person's going to have to start it or at least initiate your automation process. And then, how much do you want to let it go in that supply chain until a human actually looks at something, right? So, if we think about the amount of time it takes to produce content, and then where the bottlenecks are, humans have to be part of that equation at some point. There has to be somebody that initiates an idea. There should be somebody that's editing, and I guess I'm going to change from have to should for importance of creativity. And I think going back to the living room analogy and seeing behind you all the colors on your wall, which include purple, and you've got way more than six colors. What are you talking about? Um, uh, that we want to make sure that those colors are differentiated. And again, it's possible to do all this with AI, but at some point you want to have your unique perspective put out there and your unique perspective in the time frame of today when you're creating it. So if you and I were creating this and we decided we're going to do two AI avatars, um, then it's not going to be as creative as you and I doing this live together. And maybe that's an okay analogy, but I don't know. Humans in the loop just means at some point in that supply chain that humans are going to be touching that content, reading that content, and affirming that content is what another human would like to read.
Okay, yeah, excellent. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think really something that we try to emphasize anytime we're using AI at Content Cucumber is that humans should really be in the loop at every stage of the process. So, you know, we want to avoid these workflows where we're having some kind of minimal interaction with AI and getting back an article that goes to a client blog because one, they could do that on their own. Why would they hire Content Cucumber in the first place? And two, all of their competitors can do that on their own too. And so the content that comes out of the AI is not really going to be useful even for things like SEO, let alone appealing to, the human customer. So um, the way that I view AI as, how can you keep humans in the loop and use AI in a way that's effective? Well, I think generating topic ideas can be really helpful if you have maybe a list of things you've already done for a client and you're looking for new angles. I think expanding articles is a great area. Like, for example, if you're coming back and doing a content refresh and you want to expand your articles to cover more topics or more areas that might be of interest, coming, using the AI to brainstorm can be really useful. And then, one thing that we hear a lot about is editing AI work, but I also think like you can flip that on its head. And a great approach to using AI while keeping humans in the loop is to actually use AI as your editor rather than using it as your writer. So you can create something and then ask AI to critique it, and everything you have to take with a grain of salt, but sometimes it can uncover things that maybe were a blind spot or a gap in your coverage of a certain topic, and so on. So yeah, I think from what I'm understanding, humans in the loop, it's basically making sure that anytime you're using AI, the output is ultimately like vetted and like worked with and understood by and approved by a human, and that you're never just letting the AI autonomously run off on its own and create content that just goes straight out to the world without you putting any of your own knowledge or taste or human touch into the process.
Yeah, I saw a great analogy of this on TikTok, and it was a guy that got back from vacation, and his freezer was completely full of ice. And left unchecked, your freezer could produce ice until it fills up your freezer. And he literally opened the door, and the ice just poured out. Like, so that's the danger of not having a human in the loop. And of course, ice makers are pretty well made nowadays, so they don't do that. But they're also a lot less. There's a lot less to an ice maker than it is a person. And I love that analogy of making an ice maker to a person because I'm just like an ice maker, right? Um, so having a human there to do some of those checks, and again, a lot of those checks can get done by AI. Don't get us wrong, but a human in the loop ensures that in that chain of all that parts where we're creating that content, that content is what you want, that content is readable by a human, and that content is then going to be something that somebody else would value as content that's for them, right? Not just for the merchant, but for your end user.
Awesome. Well, I think it's time for us to move along to our second topic of the day, which is the content supply chain. And we're going to come back to this concept, I think, a few times in content and commerce. And it's really one of the reasons why people would use AI or considering using AI in their whole process is to keep up with the supply chain, which, that means creating content as there's demand for it, creating content as new topics come up, creating content consistently, and you know, making it a process so that there's creativity, but that there's structured creativity, and that you're, you know, outputting on a consistent basis so that you remain visible and you remain in communication with your customers and all that stuff. Brent, what thoughts on the content supply chain do you want to bring today to content and commerce?
I think going back to what we were talking about, having the humans in the loop, there are lots of opportunities to bring machine learning and AI in the loop in your content supply chain. So I think a great exercise that anybody should take in their content creation is map out that entire journey from creation to delivery and find out where AI matters and where humans matter. And I think this would be a great opportunity for us to even do a slideshow in the future, or just a presentation on content supply chain and how important humans are and where each can play a role, and even having some of those checkpoints in which um, the human doesn't turn into the bottleneck, but they turn into the actual value prop for that content. And it could happen anywhere. It could happen in the beginning, at the end. It could be part of a editing process or a simple read. Um, I think we need to distinguish then the end result of that content. Is it going to be human readable? If the end result of your content is human readable, then yes, I think humans in the loop at the end is very important. But Isaac, I know we also have this concept of AEO, where we're going to eventually have agentic chatbots that are coming out and buying stuff. And I have been saying, hey, humans are going to be involved in your content always. But hey, I think the reality is too that at somewhere down the line, somebody's going to buy something, a sentient object is going to buy something from you that a human has initiated. So we have to think about both the human, and we have to think about agents who are also doing that. And I think, Isaac, this is a great opportunity for you to kind of chime in on what does it mean to be an agent buying from you.
Yeah, well, without getting too far into the future, let me talk just a little bit about you know, AI optimization and what we're seeing there. And from that, I think we could conjecture a little bit about what things might be like as agentic buyers start becoming a real thing and not just a sci-fi concept. So, you know, in the same way that we're creating content both for the end user, but also for Google so that the end user can see it at all, it's also becoming increasingly important to create content for AI bots, because you know, you want to show up, say, on ChatGPT when people are searching relevant or asking about relevant topics to your business, and you know, so on, Perplexity and all these other platforms, Gemini. It's, you know, as far as like how you're writing, it appears that short form questions and answers are going to have a like disproportionate effect on your ability to show up and be featured in like real time AI search, or in like their close cousin, the Google like snippets and AI generated search engine features. But also, the whole like the content aside, another super important factor that's always been important for technical SEO, but is becoming even more important in the age of AI, is your page speed and rendering. Because if your page takes too long to load, like AI hates that. When you're doing a search, like using ChatGPT to search live information on the internet, it does not want to get bogged down and wait for a site that's taking forever to render or to load. So your odds of getting featured or cited in an AI answer go down dramatically as your site speed drops. So, you know, it's not completely revolutionary, a new game, because site speed was important and is important for SEO too, but it's even more important when it comes to AI search. And I think that's like a non-writing factor thing to consider when we talk about AI optimization, and probably with agentic AI as well. I think agentic AI might have more patience for that kind of thing because it will be an ongoing process. But I do still think that, you know, the like the non-written parts of your site, like its performance and its ability to render properly is going to be like a big quality signifier and trustworthiness signifier to these agentic bots that have to make decisions about, who to trust with autonomously spending their, the the client money. So, it's a lot to think about, and I think the agentic stuff is still in a bit of a phase of like conjecture and looking ahead and projecting what's going to happen. But certainly with AI optimization, we can say that like site speed is super important, structured data is super important, and short form answers are very helpful, like a FAQ format.
That's great. So we've got a few minutes left. Let's close out with some things that people can do to get their sites ready for AEO.
Yeah, I think the quickest and easiest thing to do is to do a page speed audit. Google has a great tool, Site Speed Insights, and there are other similar tools out there. And just check your site and make sure that you're performing well, both on desktop and especially on mobile, which is where problems can creep in. And you want your site to be, I think 80 is kind of the minimum threshold on both platforms out of 100. And the higher you can get it, I think the better, both for robots and also for human users, because people are also, as much as we say OpenAI and ChatGPT are impatient, humans are also pretty impatient when it comes to load time and everything. So I think, that's a great place to start. Like I said, I think structured data also appears to help. Making sure you have good FAQ sections helps, and making sure you have plenty of content that explains your products and your services and their, all their different uses. So I guess we could end with a bit of a shameless plug that you need to make sure you're putting out content to train the algorithms and to show up on search. And if you're having trouble with that, Brent and I can definitely help.
That's perfect. Thanks. And yeah, the Google Lighthouse score was super important when I was in the e-commerce world. It's even more important now in all of the things you're doing around content to make sure that your content is performant. And I'll add, that some of the agents are going to be going directly to your API. So also making sure that your APIs are performant from your website. And again, yeah, both Isaac and I are available. Isaac at contentcucumber.com and I'm Brent at contentcucumber.com. We would love it if you would reach out to us and just ask us questions about optimizing your site for AEO. Ask us for a free audit. We'll be happy to do those things for you. So
Cool.
Isaac, I know next week I'm at ETEL Boston, so we're not going to do the show next week. But the following week, we're hoping to do a show live from Spain where we're going to introduce our new Spanish-speaking podcast host, David Arago.
Yeah, don't miss it, everybody. Thanks for checking this out if you stayed with us this long, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. All right.